Thank you for joining today. My name is Eddie Nasser. I'm the product lead here at Paxton, and I am an attorney myself. I practice here in New York, where I am based. Today, I'm just going to give you an overview of the Paxton platform. So here we have the Paxton platform. This is kind of the home screen after you log in. You can very easily just go to Paxton AI and hit sign in. Because I'm already signed in, it'll take me to the home screen. Over here on the left, we have the AI chat and drafting feature. So this is a really wonderful, flexible tool, and I really like using this tool. It's useful for ideation. So if you start and you think like, hey, let me think through a case, AI chat is really the place to go. And then if you're drafting all sorts of documents, this is the place for that as well. So let me show you the kind of workflows that this unlocks for you. So let me show you this one. You could say, I'm drafting a revocable living trust. I want a distribution provisions according to these instructions. And so Paxton will draft a provision for this trust document based on the instructions that you gave it, right? So it's really useful. You can amend. You can say, I want the remainder to go to the heirs of each beneficiary in SERPs and amend to include, right? So Paxton will amend according to your instructions. And you can ask for specific formatting. You could say it doesn't do justified, but it does say change the bolded terms so it's a standalone item. And so here it sort of did some formatting here. And you could easily download this to Word. If you click this button, you download it to Word, or you can copy and paste it. And it's copied to your clipboard. You could ask for follow-ups with a potential client. So this is really good for, again, this is drafting of any type. You could use this for communications, for blog posts, for marketing materials, for communication with a client, for an email that you need to send to opposing counsel. Even if you were like me in practice, you get off the call with a client, you have a bunch of notes that are kind of unformed like this, and you want to send a follow-up to the client to confirm. You could turn this in to a nice formal language email, and you could say something like, make it accessible to a fifth grader. And so Paxton will draft something based on your instructions there, right? So it's a really nice tool, really powerful. Now let me show you our research features. So we have this case law is separate, laws and regulations are separate. These are two separate modules if you're only looking for case law or you're only looking for laws and regulations. And then we have the combined research feature, which is combining laws and regs and case law, right? So you're searching across both data sets. Here, for example, you could ask things like, how do trademarks work? What can be trademarked? For example, if I want to trademark the phrase Paxton AI to protect my brand, do I need two trademarks? First for the phrase and second for branding, image, etc. And Paxton will provide a response and says, yes, you might need two trademarks depending on what you're looking for, which as lawyers, we all know, it depends is always the right answer, right? Now, Paxton will also cite its sources. So here it's citing various statutory requirements. And you can also here check in the references for any other citations. So you can view source and it pops up here on the right, and Paxton will highlight the language that it's relying on for its response. We've also surfaced related references. So these are not relied upon. These are not cited in the response, but they are useful. They could be, adjacent, and maybe you want to do some case law research based on, the related questions here as well. Now, I also want to highlight here our confidence interval. Confidence does not mean accuracy, right? We do explain here what it means to have low confidence. So sometimes if you ask a very broad query, it might have a low confidence response. And so here, Paxton's saying it might be considered overly broad and unenforceable, but basically I've asked a question that requires a lot of judgment. And so it's okay. A low confidence response doesn't mean inaccurate. It does mean put on a more critical eye when you're reading this response. Does it sound right? Does it not sound right? And you're going to want to dig into the sources a little bit, right? So you're going to want to dig in. You're going to want to verify that the sources are relevant. and you're going to want to kind of citate those sources as well. And so we have three categories for the confidence interval: low, medium, and high. If you are doing some research in kind of a novel area, it would be, I think, expected that you might have low confidence, and that's not surprising, right? It just means the sources are not directly on point. It could also mean that you asked a broad question, or it was kind of unfocused, or Paxton's not understanding exactly what you mean. Um, but just keep in mind, you just want to do a quick glance of both the confidence interval and the follow-up questions. And the reason why is that if the follow-up questions are too broad or really unfocused, they don't seem related to what you're asking, then that's a good indicator that maybe you should rephrase your question or rephrase your query. We do offer these follow-up questions. So sort of based on the context here, Paxton generates follow-up questions that might be useful, that are usually pretty targeted, a little bit more narrow, right? So for example, how do courts in New York balance the protection of an employer's legitimate interest with the potential impact on a physician's ability to practice and the public's access to medical services, right? So it's a pretty complex question suggested by the line of research. Now, let me show you how the Citator works. So we were able to create an AI-based Citator. And so what we do is, let me show you. For every case, you can run the Citator. And so you look at the reference sources and you press this button, Analyze Case. What happens is that Paxton will read every case that is citing the case that you're looking at, and then it'll make a determination whether or not this case is still good law. And here, Paxton is saying on this particular case, I'm looking at Torres v. Northwest Engineering. It's saying, caution, watch out, because this case, Steigman, has kind of contradicted or reinterpreted. And you can read why Paxton thinks what it thinks. It thinks this case is overturned in part. And if you read this, it's basically saying there's an intervening statute, and this new case is interpreting the intervening statute. And you probably don't want to rely on Torres if you're citing for this particular proposition, because it might be a little outdated, right? So caution, watch out. So let's take a case. We have not run the Citator on. There is a button here. And so it does take a few minutes to process, right? Because Paxton is reading all of the cases that cite to this case. In this case, there's 8 of them. It takes a little while to process. You know, often it's more than this. It'll usually be a few minutes. And then what happens is if you run the Citator, you'll get an email that says, hey, your case is ready. Or you could leave this tab open and you can come back and refresh in a few minutes. But either way, you will get the email that says it's ready for your review now. That's how the Citator works. Now let me move to the file analysis feature. This is one of our most used features. So you could upload your documents here into My Drive. You could either drag and drop, or you could choose from your, I'm on a Mac, so here you could choose from your Mac viewer, but it's the same sort of flow if you're on a Windows. And then once you've uploaded these, you can create a folder, upload to that particular folder, and then you can go over to file analysis and work with your documents. So here is an example. I've uploaded a single document, and this document is I have it here. It's this case, Hart v. Ward. It's an opinion in this Hawaii Supreme Court case regarding eminent domain. And so I asked, what do the plaintiff argue? What do the defendant argue? And Paxton gives me a nice summary of what was argued in this case. In the example, I'll show you asking questions of a few documents, right? So here's 7 documents. This is the briefing in a matter before the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And so you could ask questions like, reviewing closed documents. Let me show you a better example. What are the main arguments in petitioner's brief? How do the respondents, what do they say in response? And you could say, outline these in as few words as possible. You could ask things like, are there inconsistencies in the petitioner's argument? And you could say, be creative, right? And so here, potential inconsistencies. And then you could ask to zoom in. I want more detail on the constitutionality of funding arguments. It's not a e-discovery tool. So again, if you're looking for every example of, or every, you upload the entire case file and you say, find every document related to, that's not the best use of Paxton right now. We are addressing that, but that's not the best use right now. It's sort of one layer above that, it's analysis. So imagine you have used your tool to identify what documents are relevant to a particular witness. Let's say you're going to do a deposition. You can upload those documents, let's say 20 or so documents, into Paxton, and you could say, I want to create a deposition outline for this witness. I want to go topic by topic. Here are the topics that I think, or you could say, you know, create a timeline of events based on that are relevant to this particular topic, right, from the several documents that you've uploaded. So I encourage you again to use natural language and to think of Paxton as a partner, right? It's a colleague. You want to talk to it and you want to iterate. So you're giving a first instruction, it's going to give you a response, and then you're going to amend your next response based on uh, how this response was, what the quality was. So thank you all. It was a pleasure, and have a great rest of your day.